Now we'll start with the topic pace of industrial change. Pace means speed. In this topic we'll study whether the process of industrialization, it was a gradual process or it occurred rapidly. In this we'll study 4 points. By pace we mean speed. First point one, when we're studying the pace of industrial change, we'll study what was the domination of the industries or what type of industries were most prominent in England. In this we'll give reference to cotton and metal. So first point I can write here that cotton was the leading sector in the first phase of industrialization up to the 1840s, followed by metal. So first point is cotton was the leading sector. It was up to the first phase of industrialization, that is up to 1840s. And then the second important industry was the metal industry. People of Britain, or we can say the Britishers, they were interested in cotton as a raw material because it is a crop of tropical areas. So Britain used to import cotton from India. Of course it imported it from other areas also, but when we see that the climatic condition of India, it suits well to the production of cotton. It was also in a great demand by the elite class or the aristocratic class of Britain, specifically for the textile industry. So the process was that raw cotton, it was exported from India to Britain, and further in Britain it was converted into the finished products. You might have studied this in Indian national movement also, how the Britishers, they pressurized the people of India to export only the raw material and not the finished products from India to Britain. Now what is the importance of the metal industry? In this we'll give reference to the iron and steel industry. Iron and steel industry developed because with the expansion of railways, demand for iron and steel, it increased rapidly, because whenever the railway industry is developing, we require iron and steel as a basic raw material. That is why iron and steel, it is also classified as the basic industry. The need was for railways not only in Britain but also in the colonies. And why did the Britishers, they introduce railways in the colonies? It was basically for their selfish interest, because railways were used to transport raw material from the interior of the land to the port areas from which it could be carried, or the products can be carried to Britain. Second important point which we are studying in pace of industrial changes, coexistence of traditional industries along with the new industries. We have studied the traditional industries in the stage of proto-industrialization also. New industries, specifically, they were set up in the urban areas with the modern machines invented at that time. First thing that comes into our mind is that with the setting up of industries, all production might have occurred in the technologically advanced sector, that is in the urban areas, but it is not so. Traditional industries were still prevalent, employing majority of the workforce. For example, the textile industry. In the textile industry, when we are studying it in the case of the traditional sector, production was not within the factories but outside, that is within the domestic units. Third point which we are studying in the pace of industrial changes, that traditional industries, they were not set up by the steam powered industries. Or I can write here, the pace of change in the traditional industries were not set. Pace of change in the traditional industries was not set by steam powered industries. This is a difficult topic, or I can say that students have difficulty in understanding this point. What this point denoted, that one thing that comes into our mind is that as the steam powered industries, they came into existence, it might have provided the push to the process of industrialization. But it is not so. Before the coming up of the steam powered industries, there were other ordinary and small innovations which were the basis of growth in many non-mechanized sectors such as the food processing, building, pottery, glasswork and many other such type, which provided the initial base for the industrialization. This point suggests that it is not so as the steam powered industries came into their existence, we can say the process of industrialization was set up. It was even before the existence of the steam powered industries For example, the food processing industry, building, pottery and glass work, which provided the initial base for the industrialization. Fourth point which we will study is the coexistence of traditional industries along with the new industries. That is coexistence of traditional industries along with new industries. First thing that comes into our mind is that with the setting up of industries, all production might have occurred in the technologically advanced industrial sector. But it is not so. Now the fourth point of the pace of industrial changes, technological changes, they occurred slowly. Technological changes occurred slowly. What this point means is that people, they were reluctant to accept a new technology as the new technology was expensive. So merchants and industrialists, they were cautious about using it. In your day-to-day example also, we can correlate it with the example of computers. In the initial process, when computers were just introduced in any economy, they were very expensive. But as the competition set up, you have computers of various companies and the prices of computers, they have got down, and it is within the reach of the normal public also to purchase computer. Same is the case of this kind of industrialization, that is technological changes occurred slowly because in the initial process the machines were very expensive. It was very difficult for the industrialists to, in fact, it was difficult for the industrialists to have the machines because they were cautious about using it. Also the cost of repairing machines, it was very high as the parts were very expensive. Also they were not as effective as inventors and manufacturers claimed because the production was not that high by using the machines as the inventors have claimed. So this was the point about the pace of industrial change. Another topic which we have to study is hand labor and steam power. The topic also makes it clear that when we are studying this point, hand labor and steam power. Hand labor denotes we are still using the human labor, and steam power means that we are using the machines. In simple words, we can say that there was a coexistence of hand labor and steam power. So we can say that despite the process of setting up of industries has started, still in Britain the demand for hand labor did not reduce, or we can say that industrialists, they were reluctant to set up machines. They still preferred work to be done by manual labor. There are various reasons. First is abundance of labor. Whenever there is plenty of labor seeking for employment, the wages are low. We know that when the supply of labor is abundant, as compared to demand, wages are low. So it is profitable for the industrialists to have labor in place of machines because machines are very expensive, and in this place you can have labor who is ready to work at very low wages because of high unemployment prevailing in the society. Second point I can write here that many of the industries, they were indulged in seasonal work. For example, if we take the case of the bookbinders and printers in Britain, we know that their demand is more in the season of Christmas because you have to print more cards, invitation cards or the greeting cards. At that time the demand for workers increases. So it is better to have hand labor in place of machines. Machines you have to employ for the whole year and it is very expensive. So it's better to have hand labor for a few time or specifically for a particular season, that is Christmas. Similarly, you can write the example of Christmas cards. At this time the demand for labor increases. Another example can be at the waterfront, that is the repairing of ships. Britain has extreme winters, or we can say severe winters or very low temperature. Most of the ports are frozen. So at that time ship activity cannot be carried on. So it is better to have repairing of the ships done during the time of winters when transport or navigation is not possible. It is because ports are frozen. Similarly, we can write the example of gas workers and breweries also. These all activities are seasonal, so it is better to have hand labor because, for example, in winters, we see the case of November and December, we can have the labor appointed only for November and December, and we can free the labor. That is, we are hiring labor only for 2 months, and so it is cheaper. Machines, you cannot have this opportunity because machines, when it is implanted, you have to carry it on, and it is very expensive to have machine for the whole year and the working condition, or when we are using the machine only for this 2 months. Third point is labor specific products. We know that machines, they are utilized for the mass production. That is, machines, they produce the goods, all are of the similar type. For example, if you see the case of uniform, and if we are employing machines to prepare the uniforms for the soldiers or any other type, they all are of the similar type. That is, machines were oriented to produce uniforms, standardized goods for a mass market. But the demand in the market was often for goods with intricate design and specific shapes. For example, if we see the case of hammer or we see the case of axis, for different type of flowing activities for the type of land, we require axes of different type of shape. So better to have hand labor in place of machines, because it is very easy for the labor to produce axes of different shapes and design, because machine will produce axes of all the similar type. Fourth point we can write here is the demand for sophisticated goods by the aristocrats. Aristocratic class is the elite class, or we can say that the rich upper class. Handmade products, they came to symbolize refinement and class. They were better finished, individually produced and carefully designed. Machine-made goods were for export to the colonies. For example, in the case of dress also, we see in our normal life also, when we go to the parties, if a second person he is also wearing the dress what we are wearing, we don't like it. So it is the demand for the sophisticated by the aristocrats. They don't want their goods or their products to be repeated or to be used by the common class. So it is better to have labor to be employed for producing different type of goods, a specialized type of good which is not within the reach of the public. Now in this point, now the second point which we have to study is the life of the workers. This point refers that whether industrialization, it was good for the workers, it affected their life in a better way or in a negative way. Studying is the life of the workers. How did industrialization affect the life of workers? Did it help them to live a better life or it added to their problems? So first problem was the problem of securing a job. What this point suggests is that as the news of industrialization spreads to the rural areas, that means people think that now they have greater employment opportunities in the urban areas. So this suggests that people will move in a large number from the rural areas to urban areas in the search of job. That means supply of labor is very large as compared to the demand. So it is very difficult for everyone to secure a job. The actual possibility of getting a job depending on existing networks of friendship and kin relation. If you have a relative or a friend in a factory, you are more likely to get a job quickly. But not everyone had social connections. Many job seekers, they had to wait weeks, spending nights under bridges or in night shelters. The second point I can write here was the problem of lodging. When there is a mass movement of workers from the rural areas to urban areas, one cannot have shelter house built in a single night, because it was an unexpected move. So some stayed in the night refuge that was set up by the private individuals. Others went to the casual wards maintained by the poor law authorities. So that was also a problem of lodging. That is why people used to spend nights under bridges, or these were the night shelters. So people have to spend night in night refuge or the casual wards. Of course, the lodging condition would not have been also up to the mark, because many people are sharing the same shelter houses. Third problem is problem related with the seasonality of work. Seasonality of work in many industries meant prolonged periods without work. After the busy season was over, the poor were on the streets again. Some returned to the countryside, that is a rural area, after the winter. Earlier also we have studied in the case of hand labor and steam power, how in the many cases the job was only of the seasonal type. So after the busy season was over, people were without any type of job. So it was very difficult for them to earn their livelihood. So some people, they returned to the countryside after the winter, when the demand for labor in the rural areas opened up in places. But most of the people, they looked for odd jobs, which till the mid-19th century they were difficult to find. So despite the process of industrialization, problem of securing a job, problem of lodging, problem related with the seasonality of work was prominent. Another problem was the low wages. Earlier also we have studied that the demand was low for the labor as compared to the supply. There was mass mobilization of people from countryside to the urban areas in search of employment. So when labor is readily available, industrialists, they gave them low wages. Also when the prices rose sharply during the prolonged Napoleonic War, the real value of what the workers earned fell significantly since the wages could now buy fewer things. For example, if the price of a loaf of a bread, this is just a hypothetical example, suppose the price of a loaf of a bread is 20 rupees and the wages which the laborer gets is suppose 100 rupees. So now he can buy 5 loaves of bread. Now suppose after the Napoleonic War or any type of war, price of goods and commodities increases. So now suppose the price of a loaf of bread is, suppose now it is 25 rupees and the wages are still 100 rupees because wages have not increased as comparison to the price of the bread. So now if we see the wage of the laborer in terms of bread, now he can have only 4 loaves of bread. So in this case we can see that the real value of the wage has decreased. Real value we see terms of the goods and commodities which he can buy. Initially he was buying 5 loaves of bread and now he is buying only 4 loaves of bread. Though his monetary wage or wage in money terms have remained the same. It was earlier also it was 100 rupees. Now also after at the time of war also it is 100 rupees. In that case you can see that the wage is same. Students might argue that the wage is remaining the same, before also 100 rupees, now also 100 rupees. But when we see terms of the goods and commodities which a laborer can buy with the wage he is getting, so we can see the example of the loaf of a bread. Its price initially was 20 rupees. After the price has risen to 25, now he can buy 1 less loaf of bread. So these were the major problems which the workers have to face. Now general concluding of this topic, not a chapter, only this topic, that the life of the workers, whether industrialization, it helped them or it created problems for them. This you might have studied the case of spinning jenny. Spinning jenny, it was devised by James Hargreaves in 1764. This machine speeded up the spinning process and reduced labor demand. By turning one single wheel, a worker could set in motion a number of spindles and spin several threads at the same time. That means spinning jenny, it increased the productivity. It was devised by James Hargreaves. Spinning jenny was devised by James Hargreaves in 1764. So the fear of unemployment made workers hostile to the introduction of new technology. Even the spinning jenny, when it was introduced in the woolen industry, women who survived on hand spinning, they began attacking the new machines. This conflict over the introduction of the jenny continued for a long time. Now if we see the case of 1840s, that is specifically after the 1840s, at this time the building activity intensified in the cities, opening up of greater opportunities of employment. Now the building activity intensified because as the mass production is taking place in the industries, one has to have the storehouses for keeping the industrial goods. Roads were also widened because now better transportation facilities are also required for transporting the goods from the industries to the market. New railway stations came up. This also because of the expansion of the trade facilities. Railway lines were extended, tunnels were dug, rivers were embanked. So the number of workers employed in the transport industries, they doubled in the 1840s and doubled again in the subsequent 30 years. So for this period, we can say that the introduction of industries, they increased the employment opportunities. After the 1840s, building activity intensified. Other activities were railways, roads, tunnels were dug. So all this led to the increase in employment. Now the next topic which we are studying is the industrialization in the colonies. In this we will study with special reference to India and more specifically the textile industry. Though there were other colonies also of Britain, but here we are studying only the textile industry of India. So first topic which we are studying is the age of Indian textiles. India has a tradition of export of silk and cotton goods in the international market. It is not that India has a monopoly of cotton production in the world. What we can say is that cotton is being produced in many countries, but India specialized in the production of finer varieties. Even before the machine age, bales of fine textiles, they were carried on camelback via the northwest frontier through mountain passes and across deserts. So apart from land routes, sea trade also operated through ports like Surat, Masulipattnam and Hooghly. I can write here that the finer varieties of cotton and silk goods, they were exported from India. This was even before the East India Company came into the, this was before East India Company landed into India for trade. So this was the tradition of Indian export. So apart from land routes, sea trade also operated through ports like Surat, Masulipattnam and Hooghly.